this cool new AI integration we have with some of the Amazon endpoints. He wrote it, so that's really cool. And in fact, it's part of our API first way of building software, that it really helps to have folks that aren't inside the core product development team developing a whole pile of CatDV capabilities. So that is why Brian has the extraordinaire title for today's webinar. So thanks, Brian. Okay, so what are we here to do? We're going to go through our new AWS connectors, including some of those that connect to recognition, which is the AWS AI and machine learning set of APIs. And this is our launch. So during lockdown, then we're not doing big rah-rahs and interviews and such like at trade shows. We are doing it all online. And so this is a beta launch. So if you would like a copy of these connectors, they are available under maintenance on your Pegasus server installation. They come at no additional cost. I won't say free of charge, but at no additional cost for those people that have already invested in our biggest and best server, the Pegasus server. Because there's so much more metadata that comes out of these AI integrations, then we really do want people to be using our biggest and best server in order for them to get the most out of this AI and machine learning metadata and enrichment. Okay, so our agenda today is a bit of an introduction. The launch itself, what are these connectors and what do they do? A demo, that's going to be the main meat of the conversation, and I'll try and get out of the way. A little bit of discussion about cost and when you plug into the Amazon APIs, how much they cost for some of the things that they can do. Pretty cool. And then some Q&A at the end. Okay, so this is the background piece. So I guess here's where I tell a little story of the history of CatDV and asset management, because clearly we've been in business for 15, 18 years or so. So in the olden days, then before AI and machine learning, then asset management was really a story of systems like ours being starved of metadata. And that caused us to develop some of the best loggers and taggers in the world to make it very simple to log and tag content, and then a whole pile of tools to make it easy to reuse the stuff that people already had, whether it was spreadsheets or more commonly file and folder names, or more recently object paths, and just being able to pull out bits of the file and folder structure. Because people did quite a lot to try and stay organized on storage, they might organize stuff by customer, project name, and asset type, and we'd pull all that stuff out and use it in CatDV without people having to retype it or retag it. So but we really had meager rations when it came to metadata. So then along comes AI and machine learning, and many huge organizations putting millions and millions of dollars into their technologies. And the promise is low cost, accurate tagging, faster than humans, more consistent than humans can be, don't get bored, always do stuff right. And so that's all very cool. We launched a couple of years ago now, a couple of years ago, we launched 6 integrations directly with CatDV. We chose not to try and compete against these industry monsters, but to let them fight it out and to become the best at machine learning and AI. And so we integrated with Google and Microsoft initially with 3 integrations each: speech to text, image, and video analysis. And we have a lot of folks that are using them, experimenting with them, and seeing how they operate with their data sets. So what are we finding in the industry so far? Well, the reality of AI and machine learning is just a huge volume of metadata. So rather than having to cope with too little, now tools like ours have to cope with too much. And some of it is not very accurate. So being able to correct stuff quickly, all those logging and tagging tools that we've developed over the years really come into the fore, and they're pretty useful to correct this stuff. So you absolutely do need a MAM, a front end that can be a container for this stuff coming back, that can let you do the editing and the corrections after the AI and machine learning has done its job. It can be a bit expensive, or it's not quite as cheap as it might originally appear, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Some things are very cost effective, speech to text and image tagging, pretty amazing. The video analysis starts to get a little bit more pricey. And then what we're seeing is the accuracy is getting better and better over time, and that will only continue, right? And so one of the benefits of having a MAM is you can run the same analysis again in a year's time, and you'll get the improvements in the back end that the that the big vendors, the Googles, the Microsofts, and the Amazons have put in place. So that's kind of our history and how we got to where we are. And so here is, I probably need the drum roll, or perhaps I've probably got, how about this? It's not too good, but we're going to launch our AWS recognition connectors with CatDV, and this is what they do. So three main things: speech to text, as we've had before. One of the cool things that we've got in this set of integrations is that Amazon can identify different speakers in content. And we know we've been asked for this by several customers. If you're doing an interview, for example, you might just want to be able to quickly flick through all of the responses to the interviewee's questions, or all the questions. So being able to filter down and being able to see, just take me to the interviewee starting to ask a question of the interviewee. That can be really handy and really save time when trying to work out which parts of the interview to be able to broadcast or to use in your content. Language translation, we've done a few things with language translation. I think we trialed some of them and showed some of them to you as customizations in an earlier webinar. But language translation is really cool, and we can translate metadata and markers. And with our recently launched overlay capability in our web player, then being able to do a language translation and then put up subtitles in a new language, that can be really cool. And we'll show that later too. And then I guess the most exciting stuff is the image and video analysis. And you can see there some of the things that we have enabled folks to analyze, both the images and videos, based on these recognition APIs provided by Amazon. And so labeling content, is it a cat? Is it a house? What's going on in the scene? Faces. At the moment, the still side of things can cover emotion, so whether people are happy, sad, and such like. We're going to hopefully be extending that into the video side as well, and that it can make some guesses about ages and whether your mouth's open and closed, whether you're wearing sunglasses, all that kind of cool stuff. Text, so OCR, being able to pull out text from content really can give a sense of what's going on in the narrative of a piece if it's got text in the show. Unsafe images, violence, gore, nudity, all those kind of things. Those can be detected as well. We won't be showing those, but rest assured that we have implemented an integration with them. Celebrities is pretty cool. So being able to throw content at Google, at Amazon even, and for it to tell us who it thinks is in some of those scenes. We'll be seeing some of that. And then one for particularly the CatDV audience, where we know we work with a lot of creative folks. Technical cues is a new one. I was on a panel yesterday with some folks from AWS, and we were chatting through how it is really cool. You can identify scene changes, color bars, black frames, credits, automatically. So being able to kind of do mini QCs or just jump between scenes, jump between frames, and look for black frames. You don't want those when you're playing stuff out. That's all pretty useful and pretty cool. So quite a mouthful in terms of our new capabilities, and really cool that they are launching today, and really cool that for those folks that have invested in a Pegasus server, you can have them, and we will help you to get going with them, because we want some feedback about how they work for you. So quite exciting. We've had a lot of fun putting this together, to be honest, trying to find good content to showcase the stuff that we've built and the stuff that Amazon have got behind the scenes. So what I will do is stop talking for a bit and hand over to Brian, who will show us the fruits of his labors over the last few weeks and months.
Thanks a lot, Dave, and thanks everyone for tuning in. As Dave mentioned, we've been working on this real hard over the last couple of months, and it has been a team effort. Certainly not just me. Without great dev support available from Squarebox as well. So thanks for all that. It's really exciting to be able to show you this stuff today. So let's do a screen share. I'm logged into a CatDV server here. It's got our new Amazon AI tools installed, and I'm just going to go through those three categories that Dave showed with some example content. Now, this plugin is based out of the Worker node, and it's built more like a set of tools, really, to be flexible, to allow you to build AI into various workflows. So, in reality, we've got certain, let's say static demo actions set up here. It'll be really exciting to see what you all do with this stuff in terms of applying it to your real, in-person system deployments. So let's get started. Let's do a little bit of the transcription first, the speech to text. So here we've got a clip of a U.S. president speaking.
Develop a long-term Gulf Coast restoration plan as soon as possible.
And we've already run the English transcript here. So what you can see, and the controls that we actually have for this are here. So we can choose a dialect, not just the language, not just English, but whether it's US English. We can even recognize things like Indian English. So we can choose the dialect that we're transcribing and which clip markers we'd like to put that transcription into. We can also get a raw transcript. So if any of you, some of our reseller partners, you do your own development. So there's all sorts of cool things you can do with the raw transcript too. But right over here, the resultant transcript is pretty impressive, comes through pretty clearly. But then from there, since we've got it, we can now display that, as Dave mentioned, as an overlay in the player. So just by choosing English here, I can then come back here.
The plan will be designed by states, local communities, tribes, fishermen, businesses.
We can skip through, and you can click on if you want to go by the transcript. So say I want to start here, we can start there and then play the clip from that point.
For the impact this spill has had on the region.
And so what's also great is that these all become searchable, these transcripts, right? So as you want to, whether you're putting content into the system, if you want to come in and search based on what might be in the content, that stuff can just already be transcribed and ready for you. So let's apply now some of that translation intelligence to this. Say, with our Server 9 release, of course, you probably already know that we've implemented support for multiple languages in CatDV natively. So now we could have people collaborating from across the globe to where if you want to send this clip to someone who maybe speaks, German instead of English, oh, look, I've already got it lined up. You could say, okay, let's translate these clip markers from English to German. We'll run that now. So when we send through a job, it all runs via the worker node, and the translation jobs come back almost instantly. So just like that, now we have an option to display German subtitles in the player as well.
Develop a long-term Gulf Coast restoration plan as soon as possible.
And I will leave that to if we have any friends from Germany or German-speaking friends watching, I'll leave that up to you to determine the accuracy of the transcription. But we found it to be pretty good. So that is transcription of a speaker and translation of that transcription into different language. Let's take it to another level now. What if the base transcript isn't English? Well, we can do the same thing to bring it from Spanish into English. So just by saying we want to translate these clip markers from Spanish to English, we can now unlock additional value in content that might have been already sitting on our system for years, but we just never understood. That immediately becomes indexed and searchable. So just like that, we come back and we have the option to view this clip in English, like that.
En Colombia hay muchos acentos. Yo soy de Bogotá y nosotros en Bogotá, aunque mucha gente diga que no, nosotros tenemos un acento.
So that's really cool. So let's take it one more notch, shall we? The thing that Dave mentioned that is pretty exciting for us here is the ability to identify whether there's one or two or multiple speakers and who's saying what within a clip. So if we go to our next clip is actually from a prior webinar where, you've probably seen some of these where we have Dave and Matthew and they're having all sorts of back and forth. And so we transcribed the whole thing. And you see here, we've got, maybe thousands of markers here. And so that whole transcript becomes searchable, which is really, really cool, right? And we can see here, English 1, English 2, we can see exactly who's speaking. So if you humor me, I know one thing they talk about in this video a lot is web proxies, right? So I'm going to search for web proxies. And you'll see that this clip comes back in my search. Now, it's not tagged as web proxies or anything, but when I open the clip and we see the transcript, you see how the search terms that I put up in the box get highlighted in the transcript there. So I can easily go and say, okay, web proxies, web proxies, web proxies. Very exciting. So if we come down to, where is it? Okay, well, we'll do it this way. So it says English 1 and English 2. However, if I filter by category, where I've told it to put the speaker indicators, I can see that there's a third speaker here. So this is really great for identifying people that you might not have known were in a video clip. And so all I need to do is filter by that speaker and say, okay, well, let's go right here. And we can play from that point.
Just a reminder, there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you...
It's Hannah. Of course, that's our third speaker. So it's cool to be able to identify things like that. So I think some of you watching can understand how this can bring some serious speaker identification power to your workflows. Anything to add there, Dave?
Yeah. Just imagine you've got a long form interview, half an hour with someone, and you just want to be able to very quickly just jump to the key points of action. The start of a new question, the start of a new answer. Just seems amazing to me the amount of time that you could save when trying to work with that kind of interview content, which must be relevant across so many sectors. In sports, in corporate, just amazing.
Very good. So we've looked a little bit now at transcription and translation, and yes, it would be possible. I'm not going to do it now, but we could take that whole webinar and flip it into another language if we wanted. But why don't we move on to a little bit of the image recognition. So we'll start with this. We can feed images, single images, to the Amazon API really, really simply, right? So here's a image. Now I've already called this yummy berries, but let's see what Amazon says. So when we submit it for image recognition, we can do any of these categories except for technical cues, because that's for segment or shot detection. So we could say 1 or 5 of these categories. Your sort of basic annotation is labels, right? We just want to label the stuff we see in the image. Obviously, we're not going to look for faces, celebrities, or text in this image. And we can also set a few options here. Now with images, it's just the minimum confidence that we look at. To say if Amazon sees 20 things, we only want to see the ones where it's at least 75% confident that in what it's seeing. So let's run that and see what we get. It should be noted that when this is all going on in the background, Worker integrates with Amazon S3 and sends up temporary files for analysis, gets back the results, and deletes the temp files on S3. So it's all really seamless as far as managing the media between here and Amazon. Sure enough, we got back strawberry, fruit, food, good results. So I've actually got another bank of images here. I can do a nice multi-select here in our Web3 client by choosing the first, and let's go all the way down to Matthew's wolf. If you've attended a previous webinar, you might remember this alleged wolf image, but so now we're going to take this multi-select, and this way we can run all of these at the same time. I'm just going to say labels, and yeah, minimum confidence of 75 will do it. So we'll run those through, and Worker, on average, it's 3 or 4 seconds per job. See how fast those, you can see them sort of blinking through there. So let's see what we got. Brick door window, human person face head. Oh, this one's got all sorts of motorcycle. It's got the skateboard, machine, helmet, motor. Very cool. Apparel, coat, jacket. Oh, it sees a banister. That's kind of cool. It's got people on it. It sees the van. It sees that it's a caravan, not just a van. It sees the nature, outdoors, ocean, shoreline. This is really useful information. And then we get to the wolf. I don't see wolf. I don't know if Matthew's watching, but I'd say this is an Arctic fox. Oh, he raised his hand. Anyhow, so, but isn't that great? Because now, Dave, you don't have to have Matthew going through and tagging. He can get back to real work, right?
Thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So what do we have next? I mean, we've labeled some images. Hey, wait a minute. I know this good-looking guy. It claims here the boss is calm, but I think we should do some recognition on the face and see what Amazon thinks. Let's send it through, and it pops back real quick. So we have face 1. It's male, age 23 to 35. Is that accurate for when that was taken?
No.
We'll never know. He's calm, his eyes are open, his mouth is closed, and he's wearing eyeglasses. So we can detect up to 100 faces per image just like this, and I think some of you can already see the benefits of being able to have this sort of stuff auto-tagged on your images. Okay, that's faces. What about celebrities, right? You've got content with celebrities. You might need to identify if celebrities are in your content before you publish it to know if you need to get particular clearance rights with their, managing bodies or whatever. So let's see. Here's a celebrity. We've got nobody tagged yet. I think we all know who this is, but let's see what Amazon thinks. I'm going to check celebrities and save that, and we'll see what the results come back with. This whole thing is built in a sort of asynchronous nature, in that you could have, hundreds of users, fetching and submitting jobs throughout their day. So it's pretty robust in that way. And it's come back with Idris Elba. So it should be noted that for image recognition results, we can output the results as text, just plain text for the data. Or if you use an HTML field, we can give you this nice sort of layout with headings for all the stuff. So if we had, for instance, a few categories, we would have headings with each set of results. And with celebrities in particular, if I click on the name, it takes us straight from CatDV to their IMDb page. And this is royal tested, in that it is recognized and works with, it is Queen and Prince Philip, it's Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip compatible. So
struggles with Mr. Trump, though, I believe. Is that right?
Well, I fed a couple of pictures of that into the system, and it's funny. Yeah, it took a few tries before it recognized any form of celebrity. So hopefully that'll be true soon. Let's go ahead. I've got 4 more images here. So one's got, one celebrity, one's got 3, one's even got 12. Let's save a little time. I'm going to run all these at once. An image with a ton of content in it versus little content would have a negligible difference in processing time, as we'll see, maybe a second more. But the stuff running on Amazon's backend is pretty powerful. So as I can see things finishing up here, let's see what it came back with. Who could it be? Well, that's Beyonce. That's an easy one, right? How about this one? We've got 3 unknown people. Well, they're not unknown anymore. Sophie Turner, Chrissy Teigen, and Chris Evans. Jim Carrey, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Demi Lovato. Isn't this cool? And you could just, say you're doing some sort of research project where you're, going through this media. You can bop over to their IMDb to grab some more content. Maybe this, maybe you want to pull this bio back into CatDV. Actually, Dave, maybe we should make a plugin that does that, right? So that's great. So what have we've seen there? Some of the image recognition stuff where it can label the image, it can detect faces, celebrities. We're going to save the text for the video because we're going to show you that anyways. And it's just in terms of unsafe images, it should be noted. We're not going to demo anything here today, but it does, as Dave mentioned, it identifies violence, gore, nudity, sexual activity, or even suggestive poses. Or if you have someone in a bathing suit, for example, in a suggestive pose, they would identify that. So if anyone needs a demo of that, get in touch. But it works.
Well, we did some testing. So Brian's partner is a makeup artist and does all sorts of cool prosthetics for injuries. And so we put some fake injuries through, and it was pretty accurate. So I think it's pretty good technology, as you can imagine.
Yeah. And so that, it only sort of gets cooler as we move to video. Arguably, video recognition is the most exciting and intricate part of this because we can do some really cool stuff. So let's look at some basic examples here. Here's just I was up in Parry Sound, Ontario, and I took this video of some nice water on the rocks. And so you see here, I've just got the one tag on it in this case. And so I've asked for, if we look for what I've asked for, I've said not to allow repeat matches because across a video, we're scanning every 500 milliseconds on the video. And you might not want to see every single instance of a thing on the video, but just to know that it's in the video. So this gives us, it keeps us lean in terms of the amount of metadata we're adding while still making that metadata useful. And so just to review these options, when you retrieve a video recognition job, you specify the minimum confidence. What's the minimum interval between new markers? So if you want to see some stuff every 2 seconds or every 5 seconds, you can specify that. Again, whether you allow repeat matches, we can choose to show the confidence or not show the confidence in line with the markers. So in this case, we saw multiple things, so we calculate an average confidence of 96%. That's pretty good. And then this option for drawing bounding boxes, which we'll show you a bit of coming up. So when Amazon sends back the data, sometimes they send back a bounding box with it. And that is information about where in, not just what, but where in within the image something appears. So in this case, we had the option checked, but it didn't return any bounding boxes. That's not going to stop us from getting those tags onto the clip.
And it's worth noting, so whilst what we're showing you here is kind of the bells and the whistles and all the configuration options in that panel, typically what you do is set those up automatically. So either as part of ingest or as part of just a tick box to say, analyze my stuff, CatDV would go away and do stuff. We're showing you all the options. Clearly, in terms of your workflow, you might not want to show all of them all the time. We're just showing all the cool things we can do.
That's right. And we'll look at the worker plugin config at the tail end of this. It's set up in a way that you can set up a worker action to be its own static thing, where it's like, this is a worker action that transcribes clip markers from this category into that category, in that language. Or as I've done here, you can sort of bring the controls into CatDV as much as you want to. So that's worth noting. So what do we have here? This is a classic manatees clip where we maybe didn't call it manatees in the past, but it looks like Amazon picked up manatee. And you can look at things like the confidence in some cases, where maybe the ones with the higher confidence are more accurate. What do we got here? Fish, shark. This is I guess it's a bit of a blurry clip, isn't it? At one point I thought it saw elephant on here, but let's keep moving. Oh, that's where it saw elephant. So in this case, I believe I've asked it to draw a bounding box. So if I click here where it says horse, we get a little box around the horse. Now, some cases it thinks it's a cow. See, it saw a cow. Because that one, it's looking from the rear, right? So I suppose the rear of a horse and a cow might look a little similar.
Could be.
Yeah, that's a bit of those bounding boxes. Okay, so now let's take it out of silly zone into some serious stuff here. We did label detection on this video, so we can annotate things that appear. So we see a lot of heads and humans and people and sleeves, and this is these two guys, these two jokers on a sort of static white background. But what's really interesting is that this video has a ton of titles in it. See all those titles? Wouldn't it be great if you could search your content via the stuff that appears, the titles and the text content that appears in the video? Well, of course you can. By running, this one, the text recognition on the video, we get all of these labels back, this detected text. So if you see here, as I click, sadness in an action movie, like excited versus excited in a Wes Anderson film, it's surprisingly accurate. I've shown this over the last couple of months to a few friends who say, if you guys and the Amazon APIs can do this, it's kind of scary to think what might be out there. But yeah, so there's their text recognition there. It's pretty cool. And so let's look at this one's fun. This is celebrity detection within the clip. I see we got some markers here, but they're not showing. Hold on a moment. There we go. So we've applied celebrity detection to this. This is the top 10 movies of all time clip. And so what's really cool here, if I click Samuel L. Jackson, well, I get Samuel L. Jackson. Clark Gable. Hattie McDaniel, first African-American actor or actress to win the Best Actor or Actress Oscar. There's Clark Gable again. Tim Robbins, that must be from Shawshank. That's a great movie. Christian Bale from The Dark Knight. Anthony Perkins, the original Psycho, before we came along. Isn't that great? Let's see what else we got here. So from the top 10 movies, oh yeah, here's one. Dave provided some of this content. I think this might be Dave's favorite song because this is what we always do. We make him happy. So here I haven't specifically told it to draw the bounding boxes. I've told it to just show me the first, by not allowing repeat matches, the first instance of a celebrity in the video. So here's Pharrell, Eric Wareheim from Tim and Eric, if anyone knows them. There's Tyler, the Creator, Jimmy Kimmel, Magic Johnson. The celebrity detection is really impressive, I think. Here's one, we did it again with the celebrities. This one, I haven't heard of half of these, but I do know will.i.am, right? And so if I go to the will.i.am marker, there's that bounding box. Tom Daly, Ben Blair. Actually, what's funny is that this is a Charlie XCX video, but Charlie XCX apparently does not appear until 2 minutes and 12 seconds into the video. She's got a lot of friends. And here, actually, so if you notice, see that little X that pops up, since we're here, you can add to these annotations as well. If you wanted to draw your own additional content in there, that becomes part of the marker data as well. See? So Wow, we got a lot of celebrity detection examples in here. But we've done it through a supercut of Harry Potter trailers. There's 22 minutes of content. We're identifying, wow, it can pick out these celebrities even in these sort of relatively dark shots. It's pretty cool. Francis O'Connor. Wow, we've got a lot of examples. Okay, so that's a lot of celebrity detection. I think it's pretty clear that we got that on lockdown. And so let's look at this black frame detection, right? This is something that, a lot of places, everyone has to deal with this. The fact that sometimes you get black frames accidentally in your content when you don't line up two pieces exactly right, especially if you're using Premiere. And so at a glance to a human, if you're doing, human-based QC, if I just run through this clip left to right, looks good to me. But here we can tell after running it through Amazon that there's actually 5 black frames in this clip. So here it detects the shot, right? So that, shot 1, there's only one shot, and you'll notice it takes the entire clip. And then the black frames, if we jump to each one, we'll see that we're within, a frame at least of a black frame on every occasion there. See? Yeah, so there's actually 5 black frames in the video that we didn't even know about until we use this plugin. And then for segment detection in general, as Dave mentioned, we can detect color bars, so you can see the presence and duration of color bars, and then the isolated shots. So that the color bars was shot 1, but there's shot 2, shot 3, shot 4, shot 5, so on and so forth. Can even detect the credit roll at the end. So if I say end credits and hit play, that's our segment detection.
Very cool. And do you think that would detect fade to blacks and fades from black and all of that kind of stuff too?
Well,
what have you seen?
I mean, nothing like testing it, but what they say is that it accounts for fades in and out when it's doing the shot detection. So it will factor that into either the shot it's going into or coming out of as part of the shot.
Yeah. No, I find it fascinating to see how some of our customers use that, to be honest. So look forward to hearing how folks get on with it. Mm-hmm. Cool. So shall we take a look at the worker? So not to spend ages on it, but just to show you that, again, we've tried to make this as simple as possible for those folks that are configuring CatDV to be able to throw that into your workflow without having to have a whole pile of technical help to do so,
Absolutely. So these are unconfigured actions. They look a little less crazy when they're configured, I promise. But essentially, we feed some Amazon credentials to every action. And then the big thing here is that we can choose how we are feeding the parameters of this action. So for all this demo that we've been showing you, we've been doing this option where we pull from fields in CatDV to say, what are the detection types we're going to perform? Well, we'll take that from a CatDV field. What's the minimum confidence? Whatever I punched in that CatDV field. For, what is this, image recognition, we can choose the minimum confidence, where the results go, and then whether that's going to be output as HTML or text. And you also have an option if you want to just have the raw data without the headings like detected faces or no celebrities detected, you can use this box here. Should be noted that the config I'm showing you here is on a completely different machine than the demo machine, which is actually running on Amazon EC2. Totally cloud-based, everything you've seen demo-wise so far. So those are the options for image recognition. Oh yeah, I should show you here. If you say set parameters manually, then you can enter in variable expressions or static text, and you can choose specifically what you want it to recognize if you're setting up a static action. For transcription, so transcription and video recognition jobs, they are asynchronous in that you send the job to Amazon and then you go back and you retrieve the results from Amazon a minute or a couple minutes later. So when we submit a transcription job, all we have to say is the source language, right? So we can pull that from a field value, or I've given you this handy dandy list right here. And these are all the languages we could transcribe from. So if you knew you were always going to feed it, let's say, Australian English content, you could set up a whole Australian English transcription action or pull it from a field value. But on the retrieve, if you're setting this step up to retrieve a transcription job, you say, where does the raw transcription go if you want it? Where do the markers go if you want them? And then this is kind of cool, and I'll put this in manual mode to show you this. You can say you want to isolate some words. So say you're a news organization, and you're receiving content from people who are reporting in the field, and you need to filter in your transcriptions for curse words. So by entering anything you want to filter for here, it will go on to its own marker to isolate those words aside from the rest of the transcript. So that can be very powerful. And then we can choose whether we show the speaker labels at all. We can just say don't show them, or put them in the description, the name, or the category.
And Brian, can you run this kind of multiple times? So if you wanted to run it through to get a transcript, and then you wanted another set of marker categories that kind of highlighted those kind of curse words, like you said, does that work? Running it more than once with different parameters on the same clip?
Sure, yeah. If you wanted to, well, generally the actual transcription job is always going to be the same. It's really about the retrieve, right? So.
Yeah.
The system is set up in a way that the results are cached on Amazon for 7 days. So we've written it so that if you were to resubmit a retrieval job, and those jobs had already succeeded and there were no new jobs in progress, it's just going to pull the old results back and reprocess them. So it's a long-winded way of saying, yes, you can reprocess the results. You want to, if you want to see it differently. Absolutely.
Nice.
So that's the transcription. For translation, we, again, with, between field values and manual, we're saying whether we do free text translation. So you could just enter text in some field and have it translated to some other field in some other language. That's pretty cool. But then the clip markers is the big one. So we say what's our input and output languages, and the marker categories we're going from and to. Because it might not always be, the marker category might not always match the language. So you have the options to set all that. And again, you can pull from fields, or you can specify these manually. We give you drop downs for the languages too. Then there's video recognition, the big one. This one I like to use the field values because it lets me sort of play with it from CatDV without having to come into the worker to change the parameters. But on the retrieve here, we have a lot of options. So there's those detection types, which are these ones with the labels through technical cues. I'll keep it in manual mode for now. The minimum confidence, the minimum marker interval in seconds, and then whether to allow repeat matches, whether to show the confidence in the marker name. And then this option with our very, very most bleeding edge release of worker node 8.1.4, you can check draw bounding boxes. If you check this in an earlier version of worker, we'll uncheck it for you. It's okay. We understand you're excited. So those are the controls you get in the worker node. And I think anyone who works with worker node realizes that this is a good approach, rather than sort of packing this all into a one size fits all, this is how it works, everything in, everything out scenario. This gives you flexibility to bring as much or as little of this into your other workflows as you need. So that's the interface in worker. I suppose I'll stop that share now.
No, very exciting, and and thank you, Brian. That's a great demo, and I think it was a great piece of work. Obviously, it's a cast of tens, not thousands. But we had to make some changes to the server to accommodate some of this stuff, as well as to our worker to make all this stuff happen. So the whole team's done a great job, and really pleased with it. So very interested to hear how our partners and customers get on with it now that we are in beta. So before we head out to Q&A, let's just cover a few more bits and bobs. So something we thought that you might be interested in is how much does this stuff cost? So we just provide the connector, and the connector doesn't have any extra charge over and above the CatDV Pegasus server investment that folks have already made. And it connects to your own Amazon account. So we just get out of the way, and then we just let you get on with dealing with them. And that's the same approach as we've taken with Google and Microsoft as well. So speech to text, $1.50 an hour. That feels pretty cost effective. Not super accurate, but a really good starting point. And if you've got a load of tapes that have been sitting on a rack for 20 years or whatever, and you kind of thinking, is now the year I'm going to bake those tapes and get that content digitized? Well, that's a great way of getting a start for what's going on in that content. Speech to text, pretty cost effective, and as long as the audio is reasonably clear, then it's a good start. It's not caption level. It's not you wouldn't be able to use them for legal captions, but it gives you some good search capability, which otherwise you just end up with nothing. Just trying to transcript an old analog tape. Image analysis, also really cost effective, $1 per 1,000. Video analysis is where it still starts to crank up the cost. So that's not $6 an hour for everything. That's $6 an hour for labels, $6 an hour for celebrities, $6 an hour for text, and so on. Just 3 for technical cues, but you can see how that racks up. I think there's still some advantages, and we'll be really pleased to have these kind of conversations with our partners about what you all think about these kind of costs for video analysis. I think the thing with AI is it doesn't get tired, so it's $6 an hour maybe for some label detection, but it's not going to get stuff wrong, and it's going to get stuff consistently wrong if it does. So it's going to be consistent and much more so than human-based analysis. So very interesting to see how the industry is moving on. We love being like an interface that really brings this stuff to life using CatDV and taking advantage of this amazing technology that folks like Amazon have put in place. So I guess that's the end of our kind of prepared content. So as we said at the beginning, we've been through our speech to text, multiple speakers, very cool, language translations, metadata markers, and then we've been through all of these different styles of image and video analysis. And hope you've borne with us. We were quite excited by the celebrity stuff, I guess. So we maybe had a few too many demo videos in for that. Okay. So before Q&A, we always run a little bit of a trail for next week's show. And we're going to run another training session next week, and we're going to run a CatDVU worker session around CatDV media stores and proxy best practices. So how and where, how to make your proxies, where to put them, and tips and tricks about how to use the worker to do so. So that should be quite cool. Again, it's one of those things that we're doing because we can't travel around the world doing the CatDV University training and meeting our stakeholders as we love to do. We can't do that, unfortunately, right now. So we are running these online to at least give a bit of a taster. And then either ourselves or our good friends at North Shore, they're stepping up their kind of online classroom training as well. So all sorts of cool stuff that we can do there. Okay, so in that case, let's move over to Q&A, and maybe I can get Hannah to MC the questions for us if we have some, and we'll take it from there.
Of course, not a problem. So just a reminder, there's a Q&A button on the bottom bar of your Zoom window, so if you think of any other questions while we're going through these first few, please feel free to send those in, and we will get through them. So the first one is the overlay option available in all versions of the web client or just version 3?
Oh, I think it's in Web 2 as well, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, so the player technology, I mean, I think it's worth stating that our latest release, Web 3, I mean, we include a new web client in it, but the Web 3 technologies have come to all of the web clients. So they've all received powerful technology updates. So yes, in the standard web client that you know and love still, all of this player stuff is in there too.
Yeah, what about the advanced? So we've got the advanced web client that looks a lot more like the CatDV desktop application with everything on the screen. We know folks like that. We got Web 2, which again, folks are very happy with, and then we are continuing to support that as well as having Web 3 for those folks who we're not going to force people to move, right? So does it work in the advanced? Do those overlays work in the advanced web client too?
Well, as you're asking that, I'm running and having a look. Let's see.
Quick though. Yeah.
If
it doesn't, it wouldn't be a problem to make it do so. It should do so. Yeah, cool.
The markers are working. I'll let you know in a second.
Okay.
So we'll jump on to the next question.
Yeah.
You're ready. So what formats are supported for overlays? And they've listed SRT, SCC, embedded 608 captions.
Oh, now there's a good question. I wonder who asked that. Right, so at the moment, on the way in, CatDV handles VCC files, VTT files, and we're looking to extend that because there's things like subtitle files, STLs, are pretty closely related, and so being able to bring those in and have those appearing as overlays is either supported or right now or will be very, very shortly. But then 608s and 708s closed captions are quite a different bag. We are looking at some cool options for those. Technologies like Telephone Vantage can spit out, or certain components in Vantage can spit out VTTs or subtitle files, which we can then handle easily. But then for things that like for SD content and 608s, where essentially the closed captions are embedded above row 480 or whatever it is, then we are exploring some, and it's research at the moment, but we're pretty confident about it, but we're exploring some cool technology to be able to play out from CatDV desktop client to SDI. And then SDI monitors and other downstream stuff can then do all of its cool stuff with 608, 708 captions and audio and all that kind of cool stuff. So there's a few different answers, and it's a great question. Would love to continue that one with whoever asked it.
Hey, Dave, just confirming for you, all three of the web players show the markers and the bounding boxes beautifully.
Very cool. So, need to make sure you're on the right version. We always encourage people to be on the right version. It's partly behind our approach with maintenance.
There it is in the advanced client.
Yeah, we love people to be using the most recent technology. It helps us out as well, because then we're maintaining more people on the very latest and greatest. So, cool. Thanks, Brian.
Okay. So another question about overlays. So are the overlays displaying marker data only, or does it support closed captions and subtitle data?
I think we kind of covered some of that. So when the subtitles come in as a sidecar, essentially on ingest, then at the moment we're not converting those to markers, and they're just stored in their sidecars. We are wondering about the ability to turn those sidecars into markers, because you might want to edit them, and you might want to export them again. There might be a mistake in them or something so again, we'd love to have, if you've got requirements that involve kind of a CatDV bringing in subtitles and then doing something with them and pushing them out, even if it's just pushing them out unchanged as part of a distribution workflow, then we love those conversations ourselves or North Shore. Yeah, I know we've got quite a bit of experience of doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning, in addition to the sidecar files, WebVTT, any marker category that you want to display as subtitles in the web client, that can be done through the point and click interface. So if you have markers that you want to show as overlaid subtitles, that's built right in.
Oh yeah, so you could, if you chose to, choose to show the labels as subtitles or overlays, if you like. So you just mark in CatDV that they're going to be used as them, and it'll go through and say, oh, horse, cow, dog, whatever, and as the media is playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and last question we've got in at the moment is, can you just remind us what versions you need? So I think you mentioned Pegasus Server, but then do you need Pegasus workers as well and clients, or what's needed for that?
Yeah, so you need Pegasus Server. You don't need Pegasus workers in order to have. So the AI plugins come with Pegasus Server, because that's the container that can handle large amounts of metadata the best. You can run it with your enterprise workers too. And in terms of actual versions, use the latest. So I think Brian mentioned, certainly for the bounding boxes and some of the cool stuff we saw today, it really is the very, very latest. What about on the server side, Brian? Is there
server 9 is not a bad idea to say server 9 and up. The only thing right now is the desktop client does not support the bounding boxes yet. So, but
yeah, in fact, we're working on overlays in general for the desktop client. So sometimes different parts of the ecosystem kind of are slightly ahead of the others, and at the moment, usually the desktop client's ahead. In this case, for UX style things. In this case, we've got the web client, and and that's ahead on the overlay side.
Thank you. So that's all the questions we've had in for today. If you think of any questions, please send them into support@squarebox.com, and one of our team will get back to you. Otherwise, thank you all for taking time to join us today, and we hope to see you again at one of our upcoming webinars in the next couple of weeks.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Brian. Thanks, Hannah.
Bye.
bye.
CatDV. TV for the cat.